Hello there guys, my name is MrYorkiesWorld, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're actually going to be doing a review. Now, a lot of things have been happening as of late, so I do apologise about the lack of content. Video production has sort of gone downhill a little bit, but again, today we're here with a product review, and this time we're going to be doing a review of the new PilotPlus Bristol scenery as advertised on the Orbx website. Now, this is a fantastic piece of scenery in my opinion. I'm very, very excited to get into it and give it a review. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So I've separated this video into different sections. I might even put the different sections in the description down below so you can skip to whichever one is appropriate for yourself. The first one we're going to be dealing with is installation. So with this particular piece of scenery, installation is simple. I don't really need to explain too much about that. You literally just go into the Orbx Central app on your PC or on the Orbx website, and obviously you go ahead and purchase it. The link will be down in the description below. Once you've purchased it, you need to open up the Orbx Central app, go to the Europe section, and select Bristol International Airport from the list, and then you can literally just install it from there. It is literally as simple as that. Remember, if you've got Vector installed, Orbx Vector, you might need to rescan any scenery conflicts and stuff like that. I don't personally have Vector installed, so I'm not sure if it would cause any issues. I'm not aware of any. I don't suspect it would, but it's always best to check. That's just something to make a note of there. But apart from that, that is basically installation done. There's nothing more about it. It's not a complicated process. It's just literally just so nice and easy right from the get-go. So next up, we're going to jump into the first impressions then. So jumping into the simulator itself, I decided to take a few moments to capture some cinematics, which you'll be seeing right now. You'll see some images and some videos and stuff like that, showing the detail and the features of this particular airport. Now, I was very impressed by how nice the airport looks and how well it fits into the simulator, especially in terms of scenery, because obviously I'm using FTX Global. It seems to really work well. I'll go into a little bit more about that scenery and about how well it fits in just a bit. But yeah, overall, it looks really well designed, really well detailed. It's a nice little airport, actually, nice and simple. It's one of the airports that I would love to fly into in real life if ever I got the opportunity to do so. It's just got that feel to it. Bristol itself has got a lot of history, obviously dating back to sort of like the Middle Ages and stuff like that. It's always been a city I'd love to visit, hence why I'd also love to fly into it. Obviously to see everything from above, but there we go. So basically, the first impression was I was extremely impressed with this particular piece of scenery. So if we move on to the compatibility part then, compatibility is always important when buying scenery, so you'll be happy to know that this particular piece of scenery is compatible with both P3D version 4 and P3D version 5. It doesn't actually say whether or not it's compatible with older P3D versions, but I suppose that's really sort of required. It's not really required, since most people these days are probably going to be using at least P3D version 4. I'm not aware of many people at all in the flight sim community who are actually using P3D version 3 anymore, but there we go. But aside from that, there's nothing much else to say regarding compatibility. I haven't had any issues in terms of add-ons that I use or any conflicts. So for example, I use Avlasoft CFB for navigating around the airports and stuff. It doesn't seem to have had any issues with that. The program can correctly detect what taxiway I'm on and stuff like that. So I've not had any issues in terms of compatibility with add-ons, with the sim or anything like that. So moving on to the graphics and textures and the things that make this airport look so good. We can see from Orbx and on the Orbx website, this scenery uses high-resolution PBR textures. And when you look at the scenery in the simulator, that really does become extremely apparent. Simple things such as the signage on the ground, the runway textures, and even the interior of the terminal buildings is very, very high quality. The interior textures they seem a little bit blurry. Some of the logos, like the Ryanair and EasyJets and stuff, on the as you walk into the different gates and stuff. But that might just be a combination of my particular settings and the fact that most people won't really be bothered about exploring the terminal buildings. Hence, they're going to be flying in and out of the airport in most scenarios. Very rarely will you get anybody that actually goes around exploring the terminal buildings. So, in my opinion, the interiors aren't really that important, but it's still nice that they've included those textures inside just to add to that extra little bit of realism. But nevertheless, I do like to see it when developers decide to actually include these sorts of things, because especially from a distance, if you're sat at the gate in an aircraft and you can just slightly see through the window of the terminal building, it just adds that extra level of sort of realism, as I mentioned earlier, that extra level of immersion and stuff like that. The taxiway and the apron are all really nice in terms of ground textures. They appear really sharp and precise when you're panning around with the camera, or maybe you've got like a, you're taxiing on the taxiway and stuff. You can really see the amount of detail that's been put into the apron area, the taxiways, the runways and stuff like that. Especially if it's a light aircraft where you can see things close to the ground. That's where I find that you can see the best amount of detail, because obviously you're a lot closer to the ground. You're able to sort of take in a lot more of the ground scenery. And yeah, the textures are really nice looking. I was very, very impressed by that. On to the performance of this particular piece of scenery. Another important aspect of any scenery item has got to be performance. You know, you see that many people saying, I'm getting so many FPS on this. Is it smooth? Is it stuttery? And stuff like that. I can safely say that PilotPlus have done an absolutely fantastic job in harnessing the power of the latest sim architecture, you know, with P3D version 4 and 5, because even when I tried sitting in the PMDG 747, which is obviously not really an aircraft that you'd get at Bristol Airport very often, the FPS counter was still getting between 50 and 60 inside the virtual cockpit. Now, obviously I said between 50 and 60, and that's based on the settings that I'm using in my settings video that you'll find on the channel. But it may well work perfectly, you know, with any particular setup. I would say this, it's a small airport, so the chances of it having a massively heavy performance hit are very, very small. Nighttime is slightly less. You get slightly less FPS overall, but obviously I'm assuming that can be expected. I mean, especially for me, in my opinion, because you've got the dynamic lighting, and obviously it's dependent on what settings you're using again. The settings are always very important. Overall, though, I still managed to get between 45 and 55% FPS, on average when I was in the sort of virtual cockpit of the 747 at night. So definitely nothing to worry about, definitely usable, definitely simmable, if you will. Nice and smooth, and that's what we all like to see. And again, we move on to the night lighting section. So speaking of the night lighting, which we just touched upon in the performance part there, it looks absolutely fabulous at night. You can see here that I decided to change the time of day in the sim. And although sometimes it doesn't always work, because it's better to actually load into the sim with the date and time that you're wanting to fly, and not just change it halfway through, because it can sometimes result in bugs. But I was still very impressed with how things look and feel with this amazing Bristol scenery. The detail was there, the runway lights, you know, the taxiway lights were all there, the dynamic lighting was there on the terminal buildings and things like that. I'll let the visuals here, you should be seeing some visuals on the screen now, I'll let those do the talking and you can make up your own mind, but to me, the night lighting is absolutely fantastic. So moving on to the accuracy to the real world. So when it comes to how accurate this scenery is to the real world, it's difficult to really get it wrong when it comes to small airports. And PilotPlus have done a really fantastic job here, making everything look realistic. It's an accurate rendition of Bristol Airport, I've got to say that. There's nothing really that I could find when I was comparing it to the real world counterpart that was much different at all. You can definitely tell from a screenshot or from a bit of footage, if you were given it and not told where it is in the virtual world, you would know that it's definitely Bristol Airport. I can't speak for the True Earth stuff because I haven't really installed True Earth, but when you've got Orbx FTX Global scenery, it really works well with it and makes it sort of look as if it is actually in the real world. Again, that True Earth stuff, I've not got it installed, so I think they've done a good job, a fantastic job of making it fit in. I've not used it with the default scenery because, again, I'm using FTX Global, but from what I've seen, it fits well into the world. Orbx works fantastic with it, hence, you know, it's an Orbx product, you know, PilotPlus product, but you get what I mean. It works very well with Orbx, as you can imagine it probably will do, given the fact that they're in partnership with PilotPlus. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of its accuracy to the real world, absolutely fantastic. Going a little bit off the tangent there, but off the subject, it is absolutely fantastic. I didn't spot anything that was blatantly obvious in front of me from a picture of the real world airport compared to the sim version. With Orbx Global installed, with Bristol installed, it all looks very, very accurate and very, very realistic. So with this being quite a small piece of scenery here, you can sort of imagine that it doesn't take very long to complete a review of it, and I think you'll agree with me that PilotPlus Bristol, or Echo Golf Golf Delta, is a must-have piece of scenery with plenty of eye-catching textures. It's got plenty of features. It really looks very, very realistic. It looks nice and crisp, and it will just help you to make that simming experience as realistic as possible when you're visiting Bristol in the virtual world. You can pick up a copy of the scenery yourself by going to the link in the description. I would highly recommend it to absolutely anyone. You can find out the pricing as well by clicking on that link as well. It might change, so I don't want to say that it's this price, that price, and it changes, but it's not very expensive. It's a fantastic piece of scenery. So basically that's it. Absolutely loved it. I'm sure you will do too. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you want to see regular flight sim content such as this on a regular basis. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.